This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. We call this meeting to order at 5:30 PM, and we will have to take a motion for chairman in the absence of Chairman Kaminsky.
Move approval of trustee Warren for the temporary chair.
I'll second. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Unanimous. Mike.
First item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from September 23rd. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes from September 23rd.
I'll second.
All right. Do we have any discussion? No, no discussion. Then we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed, motion carries. Item 4, public comment. Do we have any public comment tonight?
Okay. Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. Good evening. I just have two questions tonight. And you may have already said this in previous meetings, but I have unfortunately had to miss some. On the asset inventory work that's being done with the life cycle for the DPW equipment, the first question is, when do you think that the dollars for the entire all of the departments within the village's equipment may also be added to that? Is that like a 2-year, 3-year, or 4-year project or longer? Because that would be incredibly useful for budget purposes. And then the second part of the question is, is this system and people on the team capable of doing an equivalent for facilities as well, and what would that schedule be? You may have already covered this, but I'm sorry, I just don't know. So that's my question.
You have a quick answer for that?
Mike.
The quick answer would be that I guess I'd have to talk to Administrator Krecklow and the police and fire chiefs about expanding it to other departments. But it will cover the administrative equipment and vehicles that are here at Village Hall, as well as the rec vehicles. So it covers essentially everything except fire and police.
Okay, and the time frame on the...
For that, it's essentially done.
Oh, it's essentially done. Okay, great. And is there a possibility of the buildings themselves or?
That is, that's our next big effort, yes.
Okay, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Melanie. Any other comments? Scott?
Good evening, Scott Heffley, W159 and 10514 Old Farm Road. Just an observation, and then something related to tonight. Observation on the budget. Been to all the budget meetings for this department, and obviously a big part of the budget. When I hear things this is budget related, but when I hear things saying that we can't cut everything, we need everything on the list, that makes me concerned when I hear that we have to understand where we are. I want everybody that's a trustee sitting up there to understand that we are on tenuous ground. And I hope you know that. We have a lot of things coming down the road that maybe should have been handled years ago. It's not important they weren't handled. They need to be handled now. So when people say we can't cut anything, this is the best we can do. Okay, that's them saying that, and that's fine defending their budgets, but you have to be the trustees that say this is what's right for the people. So keep that in mind, please. Related to new business, okay, I was not aware of that sidewalk ordinance where we're the only village in the entire Washington County that plows everything under the sun and have for 60 years or whatever long it's been. So no, we obviously would want to follow what It's an easy justifiable thing. Follow what every other, if Slinger is making you do your own sidewalk and Hartford is and Kewaskum is, West Bend, we do it too. And if it saves us 150,000 in the budget, that's a no-brainer. I mean, so I hope that's an easy thing to understand. Let's just do that and people will adjust to things that are brought to them. If it's different than what it was, we just work around it. You get a couple calls and then 6 months from now, no one says anything about it. So the rest of the stuff, campaign sign placement, apparently that's an issue or was recently. I'm cool with that. Whatever that resolution is, hopefully get more information on that. Division Road, I certainly hope seems like we've been talking about Division Road for 2 years. I live and drive on Division Road every single day because that's where I live in Old Farm, and you know that goes to Division. We need to hopefully get that project going, and I know we're working on it. So, you know, the other and last thing related to that, I know it'll be in the director's report, but I live on Old Farm and I drive by through Wagon Trail every single day. There has been no work done on Wagon Trail for a month at least, and that's the neighbors telling me that live on Wagon Trail, not me. Will that ever be done? I mean, I don't know what's going on there, but I will tell you what, in the future, if we're going to cut deals with Wolf Paving, whoever does our stuff, you have to meet certain deadlines. Because I have clients that work in construction on the interstate and other places around the area, state highway paving, and if you don't get it done, you start losing money every single day you don't get it done. So if we're just leaving it wide open, that happened on Main Street by Relish. Our village board president had to intervene because we just can't, we have so many other projects, we can't get around to it. We have to be better and hold people to the fire if we're going to pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. FYI, the timing on Wagon Trail will be addressed in the director's report at the end, so you have to stick around.
I always stick with them.
Okay. All right. And I noticed the same thing too. I was riding my bike through there yesterday, and you know that an excavation has been open for a long time when it's gravel and there's grass starting to grow in it. So yes, it's been quite a while. So anyway, that'll be discussed in the director's report. Thank you. Item 5, unfinished business. There is none. So we'll go to item 6, new business, starting with an ordinance to amend section 8.02 of the Germantown Municipal Code related to sidewalk winter maintenance.
Point of order.
Yes.
Could we discuss item B first, which actually we go over the map? Aren't they related? They're related?
Well, they're related. It's about the sidewalk maintenance.
Right. But
I don't,
I would like to know what roads are included, excluded. Can we look at the map first and then see what they're proposing?
I'd rather stay with the order we're in now.
Yeah, don't we need an ordinance first?
We already have an ordinance. It's a change of ordinance.
It's an ordinance to amend the existing ordinance.
Well, it's an amendment.
And then we can get into the resolution adopting the sidewalk, where we'll get into the maps then. So I'd like to stick with the present.
Oh. Okay.
Matt?
All right. So we've been talking about this for a couple of months, and I'll just provide a little bit of summary for anybody listening in that might not have heard about it. But the discussion started back at the July Public Works meeting, and we brought a memo to the committee that outlined some of the concerns we had with current code, much like we just heard in public comment this evening. Our code is very out of step with how, 95% of communities handle snow removal on sidewalks. And then that memo also addressed a couple of other things, including how the existing language has a tendency to limit connectivity because the village's desire has been not to overextend its crews for sidewalk maintenance. And the more sidewalk you have, the more you have to maintain. That becomes more costly. including new developments, and we do have one approved new development that does have a substantial amount of sidewalk. Then in addition to that, we talked about maintenance costs and savings of staff time as well as equipment costs. And it just so happened that the sidewalk conversation kind of started at a time when we needed to replace a couple pieces of equipment for sidewalk snow removal. And we did an analysis that based on kind of what we're recommending, and we'll get into the map and what we're actually recommending, but based on that, we can eliminate one of those pieces of equipment and not purchase it. And then we can purchase a different type of equipment that's substantially cheaper than one that's proposed for a savings of about $170,000 in the capital budget this year, if we proceed with this change. So we went through that in July, and then in August, the committee had asked for a breakdown of how the sidewalks were distributed. There was a lot of talk about front yard versus backyard and side yard. So we brought some of those details forward and had some additional discussions, talked about kind of a menu of options, and also brought the idea of this new option where the code would have us adopt an unofficial sidewalk maintenance map. And that was the direction that the committee was interested in August. So that's kind of what brought us to this point. We have this item on the agenda that changes the municipal code, and then item B on the agenda, which actually adopts the map. Both of these items would have to move forward to the village board for approval. So with that, I guess I'd stop and take any questions or address any comments about the ordinance and code change.
Any questions at this point?
I will. I'll move approval of an ordinance to amend section 8.02 of the Germantown Municipal Code related to sidewalk winter maintenance.
I'll second.
So one correction, pretty simple, but at the top of the sample ordinance, it says an ordinance to amend section 15.08 of the Germantown Municipal Code related to clear water discharge. So that's got to be corrected.
I will correct that for the village board.
Good. The rest of that is fine. So the map, you expect to bring a map forward with anytime that there's a change to it, or on an annual basis, or what's the cycle for that?
Yeah, I would think a change would make sense. So as new development or new sidewalk is installed, that we would update the map to reflect who's responsible for it.
Okay. That was my question.
Jen?
So you're leaving sidewalk, pathway, construction and repair. And you're taking out snow removal, winter maintenance.
Yeah, so if you look at the attached document with the amended code, items 1 and 2, 8.021 and 2 are unchanged from the current code. I do think at some point it would make sense to change item 2, but that's probably another big discussion. So we'll just bite off one big discussion at a time. It's item 3, what was formerly called sidewalk snow removal, and you see that struck through, and adding a new section 3 that talks about adopting the map. It talks about who's responsible for what. There's parameters in there for the time to clear the snow, how you deal with like windrows, which is where the plow pushes snow back into the sidewalk, how we deal with corner lots, standards for service, and then like inspection and enforcement, because inevitably there'll be situations where, you know, there are sections of sidewalk that are not plowed and we'll have to have some course of action to deal with that. So this outlines what those would be and gives those folks that do run into that type of enforcement an opportunity to make an appeal to this committee. And then it establishes an effective date of kind of the middle of next year. So we're beyond this coming winter, and it would be then in full effect for the winter of 26, 27.
Any other questions, Chad?
Um,
I'll ask one if
Well,
you
that-
think.
go ahead and ask.
So is there a reason that we say maintenance instead of what it is, snow removal? When I hear maintenance, I think of like rehabbing the concrete or the path, and to me, it's a little confusing when we're really talking about snow removal.
I guess I decided to change that primarily because it didn't cover, like snow removal didn't necessarily cover icy conditions. And I think more frequently now we're having these ice storms, and that may require some sort of action. So I suppose we could have said snow and ice removal. That would have been maybe even more clear. But that was the thought.
I prefer snow and ice removal instead of maintenance. I think the public would understand that right away, what we're talking about. Maintenance, I start thinking about, like we did on Main Street. We maintained the sidewalks there by replacing or rehabbing them.
Yep.
So.
Is-
Let's think about that for a second. I had a couple other questions here for you. Levy impact. We think it'll be minimal. We'd still have to look at the numbers on that, I guess.
We will. If this does advance to the village board, it probably won't appear on the very next village board, because we'll want to engage the village attorney and have him do a final review of the code language, as well as address, whatever levy impact there might be. In preliminary discussions, and I think it even says in his attached memo, that we're not anticipating that there would be big impacts.
Okay. As far as clearing park pathways in that, we're not changing that operation, are we?
That's staying exactly the same.
Okay. And then maintaining backyard walks, more of an inconvenience. We're doing that because it's just inconvenient if somebody has a fence there to get your snow blower around. Well, probably can't because there's no. So that makes sense to me.
Yep.
I guess I'd like to make a motion to change the word maintenance to snow and ice removal, wherever you have it in the document. To amend what's proposed. Okay, any discussion on that?
I would agree.
Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody approves? Opposed, so the motion carries?
Did, was that just a motion to change?
To change the wording.
The wording.
Okay, now there'll be another motion for, okay,
The other.
all right.
So,
Tell me again your votes.
pardon me?
Tell me again your votes.
We approved.
All in favor. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So that's basically just to reiterate, so wherever it says maintenance, it would say snow and ice. Okay. So we're voting on the amended amendment now, right? Yes, yes, Jack.
Are we still in discussion?
Yeah.
Okay. May I ask some questions?
What?
So, you're saying that, you just said that it's not going to change really the levy at all?
We've had some preliminary conversations with the village attorney, and there is, depending on how ultimately he'll decide to interpret state statutes, will depend on whether there's an impact at all. It's possible that the village could interpret it where there is none. But if there is one, based on his interpretation of state statutes, then it's possible there could be an impact, though we feel it would be relatively small.
If you remove a service, it's potentially a levy issue.
Yep. Yeah, so if you're providing a service now, and the statute does specify like certain services, the question will be, is this one of those services? Certainly like plowing a road would be one of those services. But since we're talking about sidewalks, there's a little distinction there. And that's where, we'll need Brian's opinion ultimately.
I thought there'd be savings, but you're taking something away.
Well,
And then would there, oh, go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, but it's not the entire village, it's only certain areas. and The
areas.
level of effort is so, compared to plowing roads, it's so trivial.
Yeah, and I believe, based on my conversations with Brian, and this is going back a few months, so it's getting a little fuzzy, but I believe it was at the time that statute was enacted, it was what was your level of effort. So we kind of outlined how this has been a growing responsibility for the village over the years. So if we're going back 15 or 20 years, our level of effort then was very likely smaller than it is today, and thus less of an impact. And then the other thing I would say is, this is potentially a long-term savings by shifting the responsibility in all new areas of the village to the adjacent property owners.
Right. And I would just follow up and say, I don't understand why we would be putting in sidewalks in subdivisions, and I don't even know if we have any kind of ordinance about that. Is it mandatory? Because it's an added expense, and I don't think we're helping the environment and all the subdivisions, near URIC up there, everything's no sidewalks, right? Isn't it?
No, it all depends on the developer agreement is my understanding.
Oh, really?
What's been agreed upon when the development occurs.
Hmm.
I'm on
I
Juniper.
don't think we require it.
We don't require it. It's up to the developer and what they propose for a development. Like in the case of Sutton Farms, they proposed it with the sidewalk. And they may see it as an amenity that's of interest to like that particular type of housing and development, whereas others, like in a more recent development, like Heritage Park or Renwood North, it wasn't seen the same way by that developer. And then ultimately, it's up to the plan commission on what they decide to approve.
You'd think there would be something in the plan commission, just a comment.
Kind of a case by case, basis. There might be a reason why we want a sidewalk if there's some continuity issues or we're connecting with some sidewalk coming to it. I don't know, but it's
Sure.
allows us to look at each case on its own merits.
And when you're talking about the savings of $170,000, that is in the capital budget, correct?
That would be in our proposed 2026 capital budget that we'd have that savings. Yep.
And we will be able to review the correct or approved legal verbiage in a couple meetings.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. A
And-
revision to the ordinance that's attached here will be available at that meeting, as well as any additional information from the village attorney.
And for this type of change to the ordinance, would we need a public hearing?
I don't believe so. But I will check with
Would you
the
ask?
village attorney and
I appreciate
we'll make sure that we follow whatever procedures are necessary.
Appreciate that.
So this is reflected immediately in this budget we're working on now.
Right now, the capital budget includes the cost of the snow equipment that we would need. But
This reduction.
Opposed?
it could be reduced if we advance this.
Okay.
In the proposed capital budget,
Correct. Correct.
26. Okay.
So we have a motion. Is that it, Jan? Any other?
Those answered my
Okay,
questions.
so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No opposed, motion carries. Going to Item B, a resolution adopting the sidewalk winter maintenance map. Matt?
All right, so a lot of this is kind of redundant to the conversation we had on the first agenda item. But when we were thinking about the September meeting, the most recent meeting where we were kind of going through what was front yard, what was side yard, commercial and industrial properties. And then in addition to that, so we kind of looked at that map and talked about like consistency. If, if there was a stretch of road where we were maintaining, almost the entire stretch, but there was a little blip on there that was a front yard, does it really make sense for the village to kind of pick up the plow blade and drive over that and then, plop it down 100 feet later and continue plowing? Not really.
Pack it down pretty good for them.
Yeah, right.
All
So-
right.
That would upset people.
Yes.
That would.
So in those cases, where we were predominantly doing, the major stretch of sidewalk snow removal, we just included that. So there are a few exceptions to kind of the front yard, backyard sort of thing. And that's what brought us, to the two maps that are attached here. And I'm going to pull them up so people can see them. Actually, I've got them right here. So this is a little hard to see, but it has the detail that's necessary, including parcel lines, to be very specific. But one of the things that we talked about, and if you can see my cursor, is that the village would essentially continue to do this square, the Mequon Road, Pilgrim Road, Donjas Bay, Division Road back up to Mequon. There's just a few exceptions there. And the areas, I guess backing up real quick, the areas that we would be responsible for are in red. The areas that we would be transferring to adjacent property owners are blue. And then the purple areas are existing sidewalk that we have actually never removed snow on, and are not proposing to start removing it. So they would continue to be unmaintained.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
So it looks up like I think I'm in the right area. I gotta work Kennedy Middle School. You're not gonna take Pilgrim Road up there? Is that Pilgrim Road?
Yeah, well, Kennedy Middle School is like right here, right? Kind of where my cursor is.
That's
But this is out on Pilgrim Road. Yeah, here you have folks with front yards right on the sidewalk.
oh,
So
And
yeah,
is
the biggest areas, it's kind of, the north side of Mequon North generally gets transferred to the adjacent property owner or business owner. The other thing that we did when we were looking to kind of smooth this out was look at commercial properties, properties that had or subdivisions that had a homeowners association or like rental apartment units, and transferring the responsibility in those cases too. But yeah, in general, kind of north of Mequon Road is where the responsibility transfers. We're maintaining much of it south of Mequon Road, with the exception of Pilgrim Road, kind of going south of Donjas Bay to County Line Road, and then further west on Donjas Bay, as you can see.
yeah, why are we stopping Pilgrim Road? You've taken Division Road south, basically.
Well, these areas in Pilgrim Road all have front yards facing the sidewalk.
Well, Division Road would be too. On the west side. There are properties on there.
I would have to look at those.
Those are
And
backyards.
this isn't a 100%, front yard versus backyard thing. Like I said, some of it had to do with maintaining like consistency in a corridor too.
Division, that's back, those are backyards. What's the
There's-
impact
there's
of the,
some front yards up
what's the
are
impact of
lower.
the schools? Now they
Yeah, How are they gonna get to the
they
school?
gotta plow now, right? They gotta pay for it.
Well,
I'm not gonna like that.
the school, I mean, the school is a half a block off of Pilgrim Road. And they have the,
Germantown High School, you mean?
Well, like the high school, for
Yeah.
example, that's probably the
Well,
biggest,
you got MacArthur and Kennedy in that
because they're used to us
quadrant.
clearing their side.
Arthur is, that doesn't have sidewalks.
correct. Yeah, so Germantown High School is a good example of a property where we'd be transferring it, and they would certainly have to make adjustments, as would like most of the businesses on the north side of Mequon Road. They would all have to make adjustments. That's part of the reason why we wanted to give a full year. It's really more like a year and a half-ish. To get communication out to these folks, so they're prepared
Mhm.
with additional contract work or in-house plans to address their sidewalks.
But they would have to get it into their budget now for the start of the winter for 2026.
For Germantown High School, I'm sure that's true.
Yes. Well, for the school district.
Yep.
It's a maintenance issue.
Any other questions?
Quarter
Do you-
mile.
Comments?
It's a quarter mile of sidewalk for that's affected by the schools.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Some high schoolers out there
Yeah,
with shovels.
shop class.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for them. You know, it really depends what kind of equipment they have now,
Yeah.
or how they handle it, if it's their own crews or if it's contracted.
We have parking lots that are getting plowed somehow.
Right. And that's what we figured. Now, the point about annual budgets for another governmental agency is a good one. But in general, I think, you know, these businesses along Mequon Road, for the most part, are already paying somebody to plow their parking lots. And it's just a little bit of an additional service to add the sidewalk.
Well, like you
It-
say, we're an anomaly when it comes to that type of service. I grew up in a city where you get out there right after, shovel your sidewalk. This is part of the routine. That's how you got to see the neighbors again after a long winter hiatus.
I had one in Milwaukee on a corner. I had two sidewalks to do.
Yeah.
You had to wait long
Yes,
enough
this
where you
is-
hope they could shovel
This
yours.
is the more common way to
Their
handle
new
it.
snow blower.
It is, but it is, they used to, at one time, years ago, if you had a plow service, they would just shovel the walk if you wanted to. And now it's an additional cost.
Well,
Matt,
we're
did
looking,
you go over the second map already? Or
No,
what's the differences?
The big difference on the second map is County Line Road. It's a little bit of an anomaly because it's not our road, but we do remove snow on it. You know, historically, it was the village apparently that requested the sidewalk, and the county wouldn't do the snow removal, so we took it on. I guess there's the possibility that we could say, well, that's not our sidewalk, it's not our jurisdiction. Do we need to remove the snow there? I think if we did go that route, there would probably need to be a little more careful look at the map, just because that is a busy corridor right there. And I'm imagining a lot of folks use that sidewalk.
and for our previous discussion, Matt, you said the village plows that road.
No,
We don't plow.
we do not plow that
We
road.
just plow this, or
The
clear the
sidewalk.
sidewalk.
Correct.
We don't plow any portion of county line?
I didn't say that. I'm not certain about that. But we, in general, that's not our jurisdiction.
County highway.
I think it goes back and forth, if I remember.
There are some city and, yeah, varying jurisdictions. Gentleman
Jeff
here.
knows.
Jeff knows.
Jeff knows. It's our county supervisor, executive.
The county line road, Highway Q, is shared with Washington County and Waukesha County.
Yep.
And it's like every 2 or 3 miles, they switch. But that area is our line. Sidewalk is the county's. Oh, sidewalk.
We definitely do the sidewalks normally.
Right now on
Yep.
county.
So the question would be, do we want to entertain not doing it? Then we would have to go to the county, I suppose, and see if that'd be something they'd be willing to take on, or it wouldn't be done. That's another possibility. So,
Or we shift it to the homeowners.
or we shift it to the homeowners where we can. There are some backyard situations there as well.
But
Like
you
it-
go from, you go from red to blue. Blue means, does blue mean that you don't plow the
Correct.
sidewalk?
Correct. So like if you're looking at the Pilgrim Road and County Line intersection, there's a couple businesses on that corner. That's why that's blue and not red. But in the
But
map that I have
Going
up,
to, on County Line Road West, you stop at like right before Rivers Bend. You stop at
or River Bend.
McDonald's
Oh, right here. Yeah.
down there.
Yep. Because then you're back in a commercial corridor where there's businesses.
Jeff, could you entertain some more questions on this topic? I'll answer what I can. Yeah, could you step up here? It's kind of a unique corridor
Yes.
with the county's jurisdiction. Does the county clear sidewalks?
Button.
Yeah, we have to press that button.
Really hard.
Off is on.
And the red light out
There you go.
Yeah. So other communities, is the county clearing sidewalks that you know?
Generally not. I don't believe we even have equipment to clear sidewalks, except on our own campus.
Yeah,
Campus.
okay.
That's what I would guess. It's just road plowing or
Right.
county road plowing.
Yeah,
So,
and brining and salt.
Yeah.
so a request from the village to say county, take care of your own sidewalk wouldn't.
No, and
Likely wouldn't.
And that's, I understand that's historically, what happened is, the village requested the sidewalk be installed probably as part of a county or state project. But the county told the village at that time, okay, that's, a snow removal liability that we're not going to take on. And the village has done that consistently now for as long as it's been there.
And strangely enough, that part of that right of way, we just discovered was never deeded over to anybody else. We had to abandon it because it was where there are buildings now. So that's a strange area.
Mhm, mhm. Interesting. So that we're plowing the sidewalk over the expressway. That's what it looks
Or
like,
the structure, the bridge.
the bridge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, wherever
I
there's
mean, using
the
that
red.
argument, you're not gonna have the state clear that sidewalk because it's over their right of way. I mean, same kind of thing.
Was this the first or second map?
Well, we're still looking at the first one, the one with the chain with like transferring the sidewalk to adjacent property owners is here. So that segment is in blue instead.
It's the what? It's the.
It's just colored blue to reflect that we're transferring the responsibility to the adjacent.
But that
property
said,
owner.
that bridge over the freeway,
Yeah,
we would have to do something there.
we would have to do something there, and there's some backyard situations along county lines. So if
It wouldn't be all blue.
it wouldn't be all blue, and I think we'd actually have to bring back a different map if you're interested in that. If not, then the map that I had up originally,
But you're lifting, or you're stopping, and then it's not contiguous.
well, in either case, it's fairly contiguous. Like the first example here, we're doing a long stretch, you
Right.
know, from Pilgrim West and then from Pilgrim East. If we're going to go this route and transfer this to adjacent property owners, then yes, there would be more kind of on and off, and we would have to do the overpass. You know, there's probably a few other areas like that in backyards that we would have to consider. So gets to be a little more complicated on county line. I guess that's kind of why we highlighted it. Just one, so you're aware of the issue. And two, if we did want to make some sort of change along county line, we could bring a revision to this back
Right.
where we've given this some more thought.
We don't know how much it's used in the winter.
Yeah, in terms
We
of
don't
like a
have,
pedestrian count
we
or
got no
something.
data then.
No.
So I can't see the full legend.
The only thing,
Blue is no or yes.
blue,
Homeowner?
yep.
Oh,
If you look over here, like the sidewalk does come up and connect to this subdivision here. So it is possible to kind of walk out and around that way. There's a little connectivity, same with Pilgrim Road. I don't know if anybody does that loop or not, but,
yeah. People walk the square. Like Dungeness Bay.
the main one.
I don't see many people there in the
There,
winter,
yes,
or even in
and
the summer for
there,
that matter.
what?
I don't see that many people. Every time I come through that intersection, which is a lot, I don't see that many people
Mm,
walking that
sidewalk,
stretch.
it's pretty rare.
What?
On county line?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
Oh, county line from going north on Pilgrim. There's a lot of walking.
So I guess what I would say is that if you're inclined to look at county line a little more carefully, you'd probably want to bring a revised map back with a little more detail along that stretch. If you're inclined to kind of keep things more consistent with how they've been, then the first map I showed and the one that I just popped up again now, I think is ready to move forward.
The first one. We're back to the first map.
The one I have up now, yeah, with the red line predominantly on county line.
Is that the first one? Or
Yep.
Yeah.
okay.
That one is actually labeled the alternative and then preferred is the county line one, the blue.
Where does it say alternative?
I'm sorry?
It did on the packet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If we're doing this, I'd like to go for transferring as much as we can, to make it worth our while on this. 'Cause
Mhm.
we're
Well,
not gonna get a second kick at the can
well,
of this.
what, I mean, what's the incremental difference?
Between what?
Slide
Mm.
1, slide 2.
Probably talking close to 1.5 miles on county line road that we would give up responsibility for.
Yeah, and I think it's more of a labor savings for us than equipment. We feel like either way, with either version of this map being updated, the way it's proposed here, we can make that equipment savings that we talked about. But this could save us additional time for sure.
I think we have some time and I would agree that we should look at what can be transferred on county line road.
Yeah,
But we won't get into this
I agree.
hopscotch.
Yeah,
No.
we don't want to do
It's
that.
gonna be one or the other, and the county,
Like you did on the rest of it, whatever makes sense for
Okay,
the
continuity.
county's not part of the equation.
all right, sounds good.
Okay. What are we doing? We need a motion.
Let's say action. I think the motion would be to review county line road
Yeah,
on the maps.
That everything else looks acceptable at this
Uh,
stage.
do we?
So you're halfway there with your motion?
Oh. What do you want? I just said I would like to, okay, I'll move to move forward with the second map, the alternative map on County Line Road with some revisions to it.
Is that clear enough for you?
We understand. Yep.
Is that with most of the red? Was 2 the red? With the red?
It was the blue on County Line Road,
2's the blue.
which is
No,
shifts responsibility to the owner,
Property owner.
property owner.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'd second that. We have a motion in a second. Any further discussion?
I mean,
I
this
think
is
it's-
going to be reviewed several times
Yeah.
before it gets approved.
But
And I'm sure it'll be adjusted and adjusted until we come to a agreement.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, we can move forward with the code change. And, you know, we have months, hopefully it doesn't take months, but it may. And, you know, we'll work through the map. to get-
Finalize the map,
Yeah,
yeah.
to get an approved version.
Maybe this warm weather will carry into winter and we won't have to worry about this.
So,
I heard we're having a snowy winter.
Oh. Huh. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
aye,
Because it's the,
You're not approving the map.
we're not
approving the map.
approving,
We're
just the idea.
right.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
I said aye.
okay, so it's unanimous, motion carries. All right, item C. An ordinance to amend section 9.19 of the Germantown Municipal Code related to election campaign sign placement in the right of way. Matt?
So this is something that's been brought to our attention by several trustees as well as staff.
It's gonna say,
Um,
you'll be tired.
Where, and it's another example of where our code is just kind of out of sync with how the majority of municipalities and other governmental jurisdictions that have right of way regulate these signs. So what the code does is eliminates some of the confusing aspects of, you know, like you can have a political sign in the right of way, which is very unique, with the adjacent property owner's permission. Something that's very difficult for staff to ascertain whether or not somebody has permission from an adjacent property. Just alone having a sign in the right of way can be disruptive for operations. And then there was rules about like distance from the edge of a curb or from the pavement. That's all very confusing. What's very common and what is the case for Washington County as well as the state DOT, you know, other government agencies with roads in our municipal boundary, is to just disallow political signs in the right. That's what this code amendment accomplishes.
Any questions?
Question. How do you know where the right of way is on specific roads? Because Pilgrim, Mequon,
I know when your sign's gone.
yeah. I mean, what's the point of putting them out and then they're gone and then you end up going to DPW, hopefully.
Yeah, so the easiest way for staff and I suppose, you know, citizens, I am anticipating that if we make this change, there'll be a decent number of those types of questions, especially through the first couple of cycles. Tell people that tend to put signs out have an understanding of where they can and can't go. But what we do for a quick approximation is just taking a measurement off of GIS. You know, we can see the right-of-way boundary in GIS, and we can measure that from the edge of the pavement or curb or from any landmark really, to determine where that line is on a property. Citizens can do the same thing through our GIS or the Washington County GIS. And then, you know, there's other ways that we can do it with surveying equipment and that sort of stuff, but we'd only do that in extreme cases for this kind of thing.
Well, I'll move approval of the ordinance to amend section 9.19 of the Germantown Municipal Code related to election campaign sign placement in the right of way.
I'll second.
So a little background here, there was some very egregious signs last campaign to the point where they were on the shoulder of the road in front of a farm field. And I had asked staff what we could do about that because I didn't think that that was even allowed. And that's how this whole thing came up that, oh, if you have the property owners right, I mean, okay, yeah, you can put it there because our code is not in compliance or isn't the same as the rest of them. The county, I believe, has the same code as not in the right of way. And I just think that we should adopt that so that it's uniform across all all roads that we have. And you keep it off. Personally, I thought that was code already, so when I put campaign signs out, they were not on the right of way anywhere.
Yes, that's what I thought the code was.
The code had measurements in it. It was like 15 feet in this area, 3 feet from a sidewalk. It was pretty complicated,
Code
isn't it?
actually said that?
I don't know. Those were the instructions that I
The-
got.
There was a measurement of 4 feet from the
Yeah.
back of a curb, but
Right.
then there's plenty of cases where there's no curb. So we were using the edge of the pavement or the private property side of a sidewalk. And then there was the whole owner permission thing, which was difficult. So
Right away varies by road too.
it does, yeah. So this will definitely line us up with Washington County and the state, and many other municipalities.
So future sign placers can go to our website, look at the GIS,
Mhm.
and they'll get a picture of the area they want. I can't remember, I haven't looked at it for a while, but they'll be able to get dimensions off center line or back of curb or something. It'll show up in the GIS.
Yeah, you would just pick a landmark that you'd want to measure from, and draw that line in the GIS. And, you just go out in the field in your yard and make the same measurement from that same landmark.
I just didn't know how easy it would
Isn't
be
it-
for civilians, non-engineers to read
Yeah.
a GIS map like that.
Isn't it
There
the
will
center?
probably be a learning curve, and I guarantee there's people that
Most
won't
times.
want to do it or don't know how to do it or would be intimidated by doing that, but
And there's probably a couple, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, there's a couple, areas that were used heavily that will not be able to be used anymore. And one of those is Pilgrim Road. Where the median is pretty wide, not the median, I'm sorry, but
Right away.
side road is very wide there. And that is municipal property.
yes, a large portion of that area on Pilgrim Road is right of way. Another area that stands out to me is around the curve on Division Road. That's a very large right of way, and there's usually some very large signs down there. That
Right on the corner of 145 and Pilgrim Road, that's another one that's
Yeah.
very common.
So there are a handful of these that, maybe they can get creative and find a new way to post them. I'm sure they will.
They will.
But the way that they've been done in the years past probably won't work.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I can just show you real quick here, what somebody would be looking at.
Fences on Pilgrim are just about on the right of way line. Backyard fences, there should be a setback from the right of way line, I would think,
Yeah. Yeah.
but maybe not.
So if you just want to know, this is on Division Road and I just want to look at the edge of the pavement, I can just draw a line there and it tells me that's 51 feet from the edge of pavement.
So
Hmm.
the sign has to be behind the 50-yard line?
Correct.
I mean, 50
That
foot
line that he just showed.
line, not 50
That's the
yard.
right of way line.
Yep. So this is the private property, this is the right of way.
Yep.
There's actually plenty of these. It was kind of funny that I pulled this one up, but this is unplatted parcel, so it goes out to the center line. I suppose that'll be an interesting situation,
That's a no sign zone.
right?
It was just for sale.
It's really just to, police things up. I don't think the Public Works Department is outright going to go look for signs and start pulling them every day, but if we get a complaint or something like that, they have some action they can take.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to be in the business of policing political signs, and would more than likely just respond to citizen complaints.
Yeah, that cleans it up pretty good.
I would recommend making sure the new ordinance gets posted where we have the election information as well. It'd be
The
nice.
Application,
by the applications.
Say something like that in the
I
application.
think it does. I think there might be a link to it. All you need is a link
Yeah,
over to the ordinance.
if it doesn't,
Because it's
that
a
would
really big part of elections.
be a good idea if we didn't do that.
Why?
No, I'm saying that'd be a good idea.
Yeah,
If you're thinking of running for office and putting
gotta
signs
know.
out, FYI, this is the
right.
criteria for signs.
An updated ordinance, they should
Yes.
Mhm.
All right,
be
so we
appreciated.
have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No, no opposed, motion carries. Which moves us to
Item D.
item D, a resolution joining Washington County to support the reversal of the EPA non-attainment designation for portions of Washington County. Start with Jeff, did you want to?
Yep.
Okay. And
Documents in the packet?
Yes.
The
Well,
resolution is in the packet.
Jeff, could you introduce yourself before starting out?
Hi, I'm Jeff Schleif. I'm a resident of Old Farm Subdivision and I'm the county board chairman.
Thank you.
There was a letter that was sent to the clerk.
That is not in the packet.
Okay, well, to put it simple, we've been part of a non-attainment area for decades. Recently looking through old county board records, in I believe 1997, we passed this identical resolution. So that was a headache already back then. And for whatever reason, right or wrong, the EPA has decided to measure ozone levels out over Lake Michigan. Don't ask me why. We've never had a non-attainment level in Washington County. But there was a
And how do you know that? Is the county doing their?
information from the MMAC.
Okay.
Bill Koyenga wrote a thing. And basically, we were just raised from serious to not serious to more serious, or we were non-attainment and now we're serious non-attainment. And it's from nothing that we did. Over 90% of our pollution here and out over the lake comes from Illinois and Indiana. And they know that now because of scientific studies over the years. But the EPA has stubbornly refused to give us any relief. So business owners all over Washington County are suffering. They have more and more strict EPA standards that they have to live to, especially now with this new regulation. So, and anecdotally, I grew up north of Kewaskum. Fond du Lac County is just north of there. They have to put additives in the gas in the non-attainment area. We always drove to Camel Sport to buy gas because it was always 8 cents or a dime cheaper. And I know you can go to Allenton and drive west across the county line. There's a Citgo station. It's always way cheaper than Appleton. So each and every citizen is paying in gas prices for that EPA rule that has been in place for years. And it's getting more and more onerous, like all federal bureaucrats get. So,
That's the ethanol that
well, the ethanol is
putting in.
part of it, but it's more other additives, I think,
Okay.
because we're all burning ethanol. So anyway, there was a joint letter request sent to the EPA from our county administrator, joined by county administrator from Kenosha County, Manitowoc County, Waukesha County, Racine County, and the Sheboygan County Administrator, all begging the EPA to reconsider because it's hurting our businesses. So, already you might have seen in the paper about 3 weeks ago that a federal appeals judge or a local, I don't know, appeals judge stayed that ruling. So we have a foot in the door now after many years of trying. And so with a friendly administration out east, maybe we can get something done now. So it doesn't cost you anything to make a resolution. We've done it. I'm talking to Slinger tomorrow. The majority of the municipalities in the county and townships have done this, so I ask you to do it too.
So on the previous resolution, was it the same counties that were on board?
It was only our county did that resolution.
It was just
way
Washington
back
County,
when.
but so Germantown or Slinger, they weren't.
Yeah,
joining.
this time it was felt, well, at the time, we didn't have the joint meetings of the elected officials like we do now. So
Okay,
now there's way more communication than we've had in the past.
okay. And other than gas, what's the other downside that the residents are seeing because of this category that we're in?
There have been effects on development, manufacturing development. You can't really point your finger on anything. It's like the prevention business. Who didn't come because of this? We don't know. But the MMAC has concluded that there is a change. So, and the threat is more now that they've leveled us up a little bit. So.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jen.
At one of the, thanks for coming in and explaining this to us. So are you saying that the, one of the culprits are additives to our gas?
That's what raises the price of gas.
Oh,
Exactly.
you're right. Oh, that I know. Yes. At one of the, and you're familiar with the Mid-Moraine, Municipal Association, you just missed our last meeting of the year. That would have been good to, talk to everybody about that. But, they said originally Washington and Ozaukee County, when they first started the counties, it was one big county.
Yes,
And with that, um, the actual boundary goes into the lake, went into the lake. I don't know if that still exists or not, but I thought that was interesting. You might want to.
there was a state statute that there was a minimum acreage in the
Right,
county.
in order to,
And Ozaukee was not big enough, so they do actually have land under Lake Michigan. They're
right,
the only county in the state that is that way.
Okay.
little known facts. So I guess my other point was, some of the, this is all about air quality, right?
Yes,
So we've been, I don't know how anybody else feels, but we were inundated this summer with the fires from Canada. So how do you control, I mean, just like you're talking about Chicago, Indiana, and the like, with their emissions and stuff. So, and you can't stop people that are going through your area to just have, yeah, whatever gas they want.
yeah, our industries are doing the best they can.
Right,
Spending money to clean up the air, but they're cleaning up less than
Mi-
10%. The
right.
rest is all coming in and we can't control it, just like the smoke from Canada.
hmm
We're kind of stuck with it.
right. So are you going to try to get all of the municipalities within Washington? Okay.
Of the 21 municipalities, I think we have 18 now, so,
Oh, that's wonderful.
yeah.
And Ozaki as well?
Well, Ozaukee,
Oh, you can't
Yeah.
touch it. Right. Okay.
and Ozaukee's on the lake shore, so it's a little bit different.
Right.
They do get some of that. But, we're away from the lake. We shouldn't be.
We,
penalized.
no, we shouldn't be. Yeah.
I don't know why a community wouldn't support this.
Right.
I don't either. I think
It's-
maybe we just didn't explain it well enough before.
Right.
I wish I could explain it better, but,
No.
But it really helps coming and explaining it.
Yes.
It's kind of like finding PFAS. It's cleaning that up.
We need a motion and a second to roll this up to the village board.
Yeah. I'll move
Correct.
approval of a resolution joining Washington County support the reversal of the EPA non-attainment designation for portions of Washington County.
I'll second.
Are you ready for that? So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
approved. Thanks for coming in, Jeff.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good luck. All right, on to item E. Division Road update. Additional survey for easement and plat work. Matt,
Yeah, so over the spring and summer and now moving into fall, we've been working on getting the plat work done on Division Road. This will potentially actually solve that issue that we just pulled up when we were talking about the right of way for political signs. But there is an area of concern that is having us do a little more work, and I just wanted to pull it up here. But it has to do with the improvement that we proposed for enclosing the ditch on the west side of Division Road from Lilac South to the Jefferson Creek. And the first thing that we noticed, and you can see the area I'm talking about here, it's a little bit of a busy map, but you know, we were going to enclose this ditch, and we did the stormwater modeling to size that culvert, and that came back a little bigger than we had anticipated. So we're dealing with the issue of getting enough cover over that or the appropriate amount of cover, I should say. In order to do that, we have to potentially fill in areas of private property in order to make that work. So that's one thing that we've been working on and requires additional outreach. We have done outreach with the owner of this property, but it's possible that we'll have to do outreach for some others as well. And then the other thing that that results from us installing that culvert, adding in the additional cover, is that we're kind of changing the drainage. And I highlighted a couple private drainage easements that exist. And based on the fill, we need to do some additional analysis and determine if we need to actually extend storm sewer and install some field inlets here in order to capture drainage in some low spots. So this is another area along both of these lines where we need to do additional outreach, get permission from residents, and do some survey work on private property in order to proceed. The idea is that before we bring a final plat for approval, that we want all this stuff straightened out and properly recorded on that plat.
so it's more effort for more survey and more plat work
Yes.
because of these, well, as you explained. Is that a squash pipe going in there?
It is elliptical, isn't it? Yeah.
Elliptical, okay. Any questions?
What's an elliptical?
Instead of being a circular pipe,
Yeah.
it's,
Oh, flat.
we call it squashed.
Oh,
It's kind of
squash.
a term used in the industry, but it reduces the amount of cover and you don't compromise the hydraulics.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense.
Did I say that right?
Mr. Schliefus.
Yes.
Chairman.
Yeah.
You going to rebuild section when you upgrade the sewer line?
That's correct. Yes.
Will this dovetail with that?
It will, but the first phase of the Division Road is from the Jefferson Creek north. The work on the lift station will line up with the second phase of Division Road, which will be in 2027, most likely.
Any other questions?
Does this have to be done first?
This has to be done if we want to continue with the safety improvement of filling in that very steep ditch. So that's kind of been our approach all along, and I realize that it's taken time and we'd all rather see a new pavement out there. But if we want to do this the right way, it does mean that we have to take some of these steps. And I mean, Kevin and I can see very clearly why this wasn't done in the past. Because it would have been a heck of a lot easier on all of us if we would have just put, you know, pavement back right where it was. But in order to clean it up, we need to go through these steps and do this the right way. And that's been our approach. The point of this is to say, we're working on it, we're getting close, and we're very close on our design. but this is one last area that we just kind of need to push over the goal line here.
But we appreciate our professionals not taking shortcuts and doing it the right way.
Right, we don't want
What's
to,
the cost impact?
There's some additional, like wetland delineation and what's the other?
you know,
Yeah, come on up, Kevin.
Good evening, Kevin Driscoll, Village Engineer. With respect to the costs, the main costs would be staff time, going and surveying to verify the elevations in the private easements. In addition to developing the plans and then working on appraisals potentially and additional plat work. So those are the main costs associated with what we're asking for on surveying.
It's not an extensive amount of cost. It's more just additional time and effort into getting the approvals that are necessary to proceed with the project.
Is that our surveyors,
Yes,
internal survey?
yeah, so it'd be internal survey. Director of Public Works mentioned wetland delineation. We have a wetland delineation in the schedule this week. That ditch north of the Jefferson Creek. There's been correspondence on the permitting with the DNR for the regulatory water surface elevation. And they're requesting that we do an alternate analysis of not installing that storm pipe. So we're looking at, you know, what that all entails and the general permit versus an individual permit. So we have some things to work through for the permitting process. And one of those things is the wetland delineation.
So these are TLEs you're pursuing, temporary limited easements?
There are the TLEs for the grading. With the existing private drainage easements, if the village were to pursue extensions of storm pipe with field inlets, those could potentially become public easements. And that's where that additional appraisal and plat work.
There's a
could
fair
be.
amount of getting permission from the property owners,
mhm.
which could impact schedule.
But impact schedule, I mean, that's kind of another reason for us to bring it here is, you know, we hear comments like we heard in public comment today. And understandably so, the road's in poor condition and it's not getting any better. But again, you know, it's just one of these hoops that we have to jump through. First, we want to get our design right, and second, we need to get, you know, the DNR on our side and get our permits. So it may take a little extra time. You know, hopefully it doesn't impact the schedule for the work, and we can still proceed with construction starting in the spring of next year.
Jan?
On your map here are the double blue lake things. Is that Jefferson Ditch?
Yeah, on the south end of the map,
Yeah.
that is Jefferson Ditch.
And then is the one above it just like a pond? Is that the subdivision pond? Like a holding pond right above?
Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah.
See it
Oh,
there.
yeah. Mhm.
Okay, is this an action item or just for information?
Just discussion.
Okay,
Okay.
any other questions, comments?
Not right now.
All right, thanks, Kevin. So we're doing it the right way. Okay, on to our item F, 2025 construction debrief and discussion. This is for discussion only.
All right, so I wanted to have just a little discussion on the 2025 construction season, talk through what we did, and then go over kind of how the process works and, where we can learn lessons and do things differently if needed for future construction seasons. So, one of the things that I wanted to highlight is this was by far the biggest year in terms of reconstruction that the village has had in a long time. I highlighted the segments of roads that were reconstructed. So in green was the segment of Rockfield Road with the ARIP program. In red, Pleasant View, also with ARIP. And kind of on the upper left is the new addition of High Point Pass. And then all those items kind of circled in blue and then highlighted in blue were our road program. So you have the Main Street sidewalk here. You have the Katy Vista subdivision right here, just east of Pilgrim. We had the library sidewalk. We had Wagon Trail, and then we had Maple Road. So it was a very big year and a very demanding year. But I'm just going to flip through some pictures and you can kind of see where things stand right now. So this is High Point Pass. We're kind of at the south end of High Point Pass by the railroad track looking north to Holy Hill Road. This was last week, Friday. Yeah, Friday we were out there. And this was before surface was installed. Surface was installed on Saturday morning. So this is progressing well. There have been issues and delays like any construction project that we had to work through, but we're getting close out here. The biggest remaining items on this project are street lighting and traffic control. So here is Wagon Trail. This was probably the second biggest effort. And as you can see, we've got the surface in. The surface has been in for a number of weeks now.
Binder.
I'm sorry, you're at the binder. Misspoke there. So the binder has been in. We're waiting on the surface. It's scheduled for this week. So as long as everything holds, we'll be close to done on Wagon Trail as well. I'll save my additional comments for a few minutes from now. In the Katy Vista subdivision, so this is kind of a number of apartment buildings in this subdivision just east of Pilgrim Road. It's Sylvan, Montgomery, and Francis right there. Here are the improvements on Maple Road. And here we have Pleasant View and Rockfield Road. So you can see a more rural section of Rockfield Road and then kind of in that town village area a little further to the west. So when you look at those, I think, overall we're pleased with the quality of the work. And I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the typical approach that the village has had for contracting. There's been some justified complaints or concerns about how things have gone on Wagon Trail, and this comes up with other projects. Main Street is another example of, questioning, why, aren't there deadlines in place, or why are things the way they are? And how the village has approached these contracts is to leave them open-ended, but to set a final deadline on the work. We don't dictate the means and methods for the construction. And typically what we've done is, especially for the road program work, we're going to include all of the work in one contract. And what this does is it leaves things open for the contractor to pick the time that they do it and coordinate their crews in kind of the most efficient way. And what that does is it gives us the lowest cost and allows us to do the most road for the least amount of dollars. But we do lose a certain amount of control over the schedule up until that final deadline. So if you look, I'm going to flip back to this map. All of the areas in blue, those are all road program roads. Those were all done under one contract. So when we talk about, well,
One contractor.
one contract and one contractor, yes, one prime. So we hear a lot of times, well, nothing has happened on Wagon Trail or nothing has happened on Main Street for a period of time. Some of that has to do with the structure of the contract that we just talked about. You have a general contractor and they control the schedule and they conduct work based on a crew and their specialties. So you might have a crew that does excavation below subgrade. You might have a crew that does concrete. You have a crew that does asphalt. You have a restoration crew. And they're going to take those 4 or 5 or 6 projects and they're going to try to have like crews working through all of those areas at one time. And then if something kind of gets in the way and there's a scheduling issue, then they're not going to want to mobilize that next crew until that crew can do the work in all of those different areas. So you do tend to see downtime in certain areas where if you understood how the contract was set up, they would potentially be working in other areas. Now, when it came down to a couple of the areas that took a little longer, there were other things involved there. With construction contracts, there's always unforeseen conditions. So in the Katy Vista subdivision and on Wagon Trail, there was very extensive excavation below subgrade. There were very poor soils there. And in order to make the right improvement for the future again, we had to get those out, and that took time. Also on Wagon Trail, we had the issue with the fire hydrant. It took us time to mobilize somebody to come in and make that adjustment. We had to work through the sump pump issue. And then all of the different sites were affected by weather. It's been drier in the last handful of weeks, but earlier this summer it was actually pretty wet, pretty late in the year. And then we also had, that very extreme rain event that set back all of the locations by a week or more. Partially because the contractor was recovering, but also because staff was busy responding to the more immediate issue. And then there's adjustments that are made in the field. So, on most of the projects, there's decisions and issues that are worked through in the field, and those can have ramifications on the schedule. So it's really complicated, and it's kind of reductionist to say that nothing is happening. We're always trying to make progress to finish these roads as soon as possible. I don't like that Wagon Trail has gone on as long as it has. Kevin doesn't. We would love for these things to work smoothly and be in and out in a matter of a couple weeks, but it just doesn't always work out that way. With that said, there's different ways that we can approach this for future years. And I bring up a couple of those on this slide. We could break up these projects into smaller contracts. The issue with that is that you're likely going to increase the cost because instead of a bigger project with bigger quantities, you're talking about smaller quantities, and you're talking about more mobilizations because you could potentially have different contractors winning all of those jobs. We could add working days to the contract. I think that would also likely increase the cost of the contracts, but it is something that could give us more control over the timeline if the timeline is something that is very important for us. One thing that I really want to stress is our need to work ahead. So just the cycle of how the road program approval and selection works is kind of against us because they're approved and we're behind the 8 ball on trying to do design in just a matter of a couple months, where ideally, we're working on this a year or 2 ahead of time for construction, because there's a lot of data collection and survey and field work that needs to happen to avoid some of the things that pop up at you when you're doing field adjustments because you didn't have the time to fully design out a road. And then, you know, I talked about how this was a big year for us in terms of the amount of projects that we had. So that stretched our internal staff very thin. And one of the things that we'll consider for future years is contracting for additional inspection services where we need to. But those are some ideas that the committee and the board can consider, and we're willing to listen and take your guidance on that. You know, we can make improvements. You know, speaking for Public Works and engineering, you know, I'm looking primarily at the inspection and being able to work ahead as the biggest areas that we can improve. And then from the committee and the board, you know, some discussion on how important is it to gain that extra control, but also understand that potentially you're introducing more cost. So there's kind of a balance there that we need to find. And that's kind of the end of my quick presentation, but I'd be happy to have some discussion about that.
A couple questions, with the unforeseen stuff at Katy Vista and, Wagon Trail. Are costs gonna be still okay? Or we have overruns on our budget this year?
It's a little early to tell. I think last year we came in, I think, at a savings on the budget. I think this year we're running very close to the budget. So it won't be extremely over or extremely under, but I think we'll be close to our budget number.
Contingency?
There's a contingency, yep.
Figured there was. On these, obviously working ahead is probably the best option here, but then you're playing catch up for the first year.
Right.
So how would you foresee that going?
Well, I think, you know, I would like to bring years of road program roads for approval. You know,
I mean, we do a preliminary, well, I think we're up to 10 years now, right?
we do the preliminary, yeah, we have the 10-year program, but I would like
But this
to,
would be more of a static 2 years out. This is what we're doing.
right, absent, you know, major changes in the budget, that we would be working on these roads 2 years ahead of time, to allow for, you know, better engineering that kind of, you know, incorporates the full picture of the road, and that includes drainage in some cases. And that's a big issue that, you know, we'll be talking about probably in the future.
I mean, breaking up the contract, I just don't see that as being a benefit. You know, working with one contractor, Bob might know more, but on the surface, it doesn't seem like a good idea to me.
I think it would be a good idea if the control and the timeline is very important to you. And that's a determination that the staff approach has always been to go with the contracting method that we've used because it's the most cost effective. And if there's other factors beside cost, like time, that are very important, then we need to make an adjustment and consider that.
This is challenging, as you said, this was the largest road program that this village has undertaken, correct, to date, probably?
I can't say that with 100% certainty, but yeah, I mean, you know, it's
Say it's a top 5,
with the ARIP roads included, yes,
right.
for sure.
right? Did we get to pick the contractor for the ARIP?
It's low bid, so that's state statute,
Oh,
that you have to have a low bid contract for that construction.
but was it the same as the Blue Dot?
There were
Sorry.
different contractors, so the blue was all Wolf Paving as a prime contractor.
Right.
Pleasant View Road was also Wolf Paving as the prime contractor. The green, Rockfield Road, was Payne and Dolan. And then on High Point Pass, we had Vinton Construction.
Okay. So so for me, I wouldn't have a problem of, I mean, you guys are doing multiple things anyway, but if you have, if you break it down into, in this case, looking at this map, the blue circle, and then well, but you can't, if it's a state bid, you can't exclude anyone, but you might have a different idea about who you would choose within that group. That's somebody that's overtaxed. And I don't know if you can ask contractors um, what their proposal is. Is that in the contract? We're going to do this road, and then tackle it that way over a certain period of time. I know you have an end date, but I think the angst is, you know, the journey to get to the end date and things.
Yeah, I mean,
just-
that's kind of what I'm trying to portray is that we could set up different contracts that have that establish a number of working days. Like we could say we want Wagon Trail Road done in 60 days. But doing that and then giving a window in time that we want it done is going to likely increase our costs because contractors, you know, they're getting all their work kind of loaded up in the winter and early spring, and they're trying to fill their schedules. And if we're telling them we need this right here in your schedule, then, you know, maybe that means they move things around in their schedule, but they're going to do that at a cost. To get them to move off of something else that they'd previously planned, that's going to likely come at a cost.
Do you think that our road projects are enticing enough? In other words, are they big enough for a contractor to get their teeth into it?
Yeah, I mean, we've had the same handful of contractors consistently bidding on our projects for a number of years. We'd always like more, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's been enough interest to get competitive pricing.
Well, I would try something different. And then the main thing is, did we bite off more than we could chew by having this big, so many miles, let's call it miles of roads?
Yeah, I wouldn't characterize it that way. I think, you know, certainly having gone through it, would there be things that we would do differently? Probably. But a lot of the areas where we experienced issues are symptomatic of the types of things that I was just, you know, talking about in that last slide. Like
Yeah.
we don't have a good opportunity to work enough in advance to fully design these things to avoid all issues. You're never going to avoid all issues. You know, we experience some unforeseen things. The contracts are structured the way they have been for cost efficiency. You know, looking back, probably the one thing I would change this year is that we would contract for some additional inspection services, and that might have cost us a little bit, but it could have saved us a little bit more potentially.
Right. So I think it's all about staying on top of projects and verifying. So, but I wouldn't be opposed to looking at multiple. That's just my thought process. Thanks.
I have no opinion.
I don't believe you.
So, well, this used to be my bailiwick. Spent my last 5 years providing inspectors for municipalities, so that's kind of my bailiwick. Anyway, what did we do before we had lumped all of these projects into one contract? I thought in the past we had broken these out separately. Yes? Or pre-Matt? Pre-Kevin?
I don't think so. No, I mean,
It was the
you
road
can go
program?
back, you can go back and look at our road program manuals and they're all kind of packaged together. So I think for a large number of years, it's been done that way.
I swore it was different, but you're right, you recognize savings because of the magnitude of it, but the question I have is that, so when Wolf was approaching these projects, for example, you use one, let's say the earthwork crew.
Mhm.
So are you saying that the earthwork crew, there's only one crew working on one road, then he goes to the next road, then he goes to the next road? So this is in series, not in parallel. So like if they had 2 or 3 crews, they could be doing earthwork on 2 or 3 projects at the same time. But it didn't work that way.
In practice, that's not how they do it when given an open schedule like this.
So
Um,
why did we give them an open schedule then?
It's, I think really it's always been based on trying to be as cost effective as possible.
Well, do we have penalties or incentives on our contracts?
There are for that final completion, but I mean, typically that's, you know, not been an issue because like, I think it's October 31st this year, or even in a year where, you know, we've had a handful of issues, we're probably not going to run into that date.
Okay, so it's penalties, so you don't have an incentive to,
No.
it's a penalty clause, okay. So, so you talk about working day contracts, I'm sure both of you guys have worked with working day contracts. So you have to have that's the way DOT does it, right? You have controlling items, you have to identify your controlling item and it works all the way out. So the onus is on the inspector to track that controlling item or to pick out days that if you're not working on a controlling item and you could have been working on a controlling item, we're not going to allow you to claim extra time because you could have had a crew working on that. So my point is you need an inspector who knows what he's looking at, and there's a lot more documentation for it. Now, if that's the cost of saving money, so be it. But I mean, you guys know what goes into controlling day contracts and that. Are these, you said these are completion date contracts?
Yeah, there's ultimately a completion date, like October
So-
31st is the date for this
This is-
contract.
Here are all the projects and the last one needs to be completed by this date.
Yep.
I don't know, it doesn't seem to be a lot of incentive for them. You can have intermediate completion dates on these things too, of, you know, percent completes if that helps. I don't know. Talking about contracted inspection, yeah, there is an additional cost to it. You know, I think our guys way back in the day, could be like senior inspectors around $110 an hour. You know, that's what you're paying for. The beauty of it is when the job's done, person goes away. You're not paying for that. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, a senior inspector will know what he's doing. I mean, you're counting on the consultant to provide that. I think maybe the part of the problem, I'm just trying to read into what I know about Wagon Trail, is that this hydrant delayed. I don't know what kind of a ripple effect this hydrant caused on the other projects too, but I know that we couldn't put the final surface course on Wagon Trail because we were waiting for the hydrant to be relocated. Right? We were on hold on that.
Correct. Yeah, on Wagon Trail, I think the additional excavation below subgrade, the hydrant, and then the weather and the storm were, you know, the biggest reasons for delay there.
Well, I don't want to point fingers as to why that happened, the hydrant and that. Could it have been avoided if we had spent money and had a contracted inspector who would have caught that? Maybe, probably.
Maybe,
Therefore, I mean, you could speculate all you want on these types of things.
right. Yeah, I think additional time with design would have helped there, and I think potentially inspection could have helped there.
Yeah. So each one has its pluses and minuses. I mean, we're strapped internally, budget-wise and labor-wise, and I know everybody's trying to do the best they can out there, but it's a very dynamic world out there in construction. And every day is a different box of chocolates, right? You never know what's gonna rear its head and create challenges in that. And then because of the way the project is structured, it's gonna be a ripple effect. You
Yes.
know, if you delay that storm sewer crew on Wagon Trail, you'd like to think they jump to another project and stay productive in that, but I don't
But
know.
what they tend to do is remove that crew from all your jobs and send them somewhere else where they can work for a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's not, anyway, that's the way it's the way it works. That's the way it works. But yeah, I had the luxury of large projects where if they couldn't work over here because of some obstruction or utility, well, you can go over here on the south side of the project and this crew can stay on this project. Because the last thing you want is for a construction crew to leave your project. Then to try to get them back
Exactly.
is, it's really tough because now they don't want to leave the project that they are on now. So. No easy answer. Well, you talk about adding, contracted inspectors. I might come out of retirement. No, I don't need those headaches anymore, but yeah, anyway. No, I actually thought before this that we had separate contracts that were let, but I guess I'm wrong on that.
There
So,
are like, the High Point Pass project is a good example. We use contract inspection for that project. We used a little bit for Rockfield Road. But we could use a portion of the road program funding for more inspection. But then, again, you're reducing, it's less road.
yeah. To Jan's point, do you think we bit off more than we could chew based upon inspection services or? I don't sense that.
I don't feel that way. I think, if I had to like hit the rewind button and do this year over, there would be little things around the margins that we would change a little bit, but I think it's possible to do this amount of work, and and have it work out. I think in the end, and you saw it in just some of the pictures, but if you go out and look at these projects too, they're successful projects in the end. And we have to keep that in mind too, is that we're getting good infrastructure in place where we've taken additional time in some of these places, like we were talking about on Division Road, to do that additional excavation and bring in better materials to consider, all the different factors that are needed for the long-term success, like changing the code for sump pumps on Wagon Trail. That was a process that it would have been a heck of a lot easier to just ignore.
The other item too is I'm sure you did a lot more EBS excavation below subgrade than you had planned on.
Yes.
And that's the prudent thing to do, like to your point, the longevity of this road, if you put it on a crappy sub base, you're gonna pay the price
Yep.
a lot sooner than later. So, I mean, I appreciate you guys doing that. Even though it takes more time and costs a little bit more money, it's a better product in the long run and it's gonna last a lot longer because we do that. So, I mean, that's a given. I wouldn't change really anything. And this is speaking from 40-some years in this industry. I really don't see any major things that could be changed. It's like
Working ahead,
what's that?
not even working ahead.
Well, I'm not sure what,
2 years ahead.
I'm not sure what that means. Working ahead.
Well, what that would mean is, right now, we're, typically we're coming with the revision to the 5 or 10 year road program and then setting in stone what we do for 2026 after budget adoption, usually in like January. And then by March or April, we need to be out the door with the bid. So you only have, a handful of months to work through a lot of details. Ideally, we would come at some point a year or 2 years out and say, it's 2026 now. In 2028, these are the roads we'd like your approval for, and this is what staff will start working on, absent major changes in the budget.
You guys are talking about plans on the shelf. Yes, like DOT does. Plans on the shelf for a project that won't be started for 2, 3, 4 years from now. Waiting for budget to catch up with it. So you'd have your designs and specs done, sitting there waiting to go.
Yeah, so that would just require, we can't commit budgetarily to money we don't have yet, out in future years, but we can commit to the roads. So there's, less volatility in that 5-year road program when you're 2 and 3 years out. Like those are pretty locked in and staff can kind of count on those roads being the ones that we're going to do in their scheduled years. And having more certainty with that will allow us to spend more time on them to do the additional engineering and design.
Yeah, how could you spend
What-
labor on a project that's not budgeted for 3 years? I mean, how do we? how do
Well,
we-
a lot of this is our labor, so it's Kevin and civil engineer Joe and the engineering techs that are doing this work. So it's staff time, and that's not paid for out of projects. That's just kind of baked in the cake, so.
Right. You got the people there.
Yeah.
It's internal,
Yeah, it might have some
but
value that plans on the shelf.
yeah,
Or working ahead, yeah.
it's a priority. It's a top priority. And if you're in your top 3 priorities, I think you're doing the right thing. Um, just thinking about the big project Division Road, I like your adding the contracted inspection services. It just reminds me of measure twice, cut once, right? You know, you get out there, things happen. So it's not to say our staff isn't adequate, excellent, nothing like that. It's just that having somebody, it's on premise, right? They go down. It's just like when you're in a manufacturing plant, it's all the quality assurance, right? And that to me makes a lot of sense.
Well, the advantage of the way you're currently structured, where you basically have the one crew working on the one project,
Mm.
that means you only need the one inspector. Right? No?
It just depends. Like, so if we go back to this map, the blue was all one contract, and then green, red, and yellow were different contracts. But when we're talking about
Yeah.
the road program, generally those are all under one contract. When we're talking about the additional roads outside of your,
Okay, That's right, I
And
forgot that.
that's how it's been in the past.
Yeah.
So our road program is one contractor, but any additional stuff,
But in,
it could have been a different one.
but in theory, one inspector for the road projects. Because there's only one thing going on, if I understand you correctly, there's only one crew working on one project.
generally, I mean, there can be, there can be some overlap and different crews working on different aspects of different roads. An example this year was we had a big portion of the contract with a concrete sub to Wolf. And, they did all of their concrete work kind of independent of what Wolf was doing on the rest of the project. So that's an example of where there could be work going on in 2 locations at a couple different times.
Yeah, that's why I came up, was to speak to the point that there could be concrete work in one location, asphalt work in a second location, excavation below subgrade in a third location, and maybe on a fourth location, they're trying to figure out driveways.
But
So
not on the road projects.
it is on the road projects.
Okay, well,
They,
that's a
they,
little
they could
different.
have multiple crews in different locations doing those specialty things. So for myself, the civil engineer and the 2 engineering techs going between different jobs, trying to do the inspection reports, to Jan's point, it kept us very active. And being able to sit on a job where we're focused on just the concrete, watching that, and we're focused on just the asphalt, watching that, that wasn't always the case because we get pulled to different places.
That's a
And-
beautiful day if it is. But then.
And having a dedicated inspector, like at the High Point Pass project, that is the case. There is someone there
Alright.
that is a contracted consultant inspection services.
But maybe I
And they
asked,
do that there.
maybe I didn't ask the question right, because when I talked about in series, you got the earthwork crew working on this one, on the roadway project, they're doing that one thing on that one job.
So
They go to the next one, so.
that would generally be true for the earthwork crew, but then say, the earthwork crew gets through that first portion and they're moving on to the second. the other crew comes in behind them
Okay,
and
but
starts,
it's a little different than
Yeah.
how you kind of conveyed it, so. So that then you could have a storm sewer crew working project A as the earthwork crew now moved over to project B.
yes.
All right, well, that makes more sense. It's typically what happens. And you're right, then you're jumping all over God's green earth to try to stay ahead of them, because you gotta stay ahead of them. Well, it comes down to how much money do you spend on inspection, which will save you money in the long run. You know, if you catch, that good inspector catches things like that and looks at ways, you know, it's like a chess game, right?
Yep.
You gotta stay ahead of them. So if you want to skimp on inspection, willing to pay the price.
Yeah, and
To Matt's point about being able to get ahead a little bit with the design as opposed to having a short season for survey in the winter and trying to get contracts out after trying to survey a job and design a job in the winter to get it advertised in early spring, late winter. I think that's going to be beneficial to the operations for putting out contracts with successful bids and limited change orders.
And you can take those other engineers that are chasing and trying to do the inspection, keep them in and working on those items that you want to have right on the shelf, right? A finished project.
Yeah, there's
Bill?
not a
Yeah.
shortage of work.
There's no shortage of work.
ideally, we finish,
You want to swap?
construction season and then, the staff kind of goes from inspection mode to, survey and design mode. In the fall through the winter and then, getting ready for the bid in, late winter, early spring.
You guys do record drawings?
No.
Well, for what it's worth, I offer my experience. If you get to a point where you're kind of playing around with different ideas or theories, I could give you some feedback from my perspective, if that would help you.
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
I'll take you up on that.
Okay, great. Any other questions from you, anybody? I spoke
me.
too long. All right, thanks for that update, man. Very informative. Our last item, number 7. Item 7, Director's Report, October Director's Report. Matt?
All right, I think we've ended up talking about a lot of this. So the first one that I had highlighted was completing the 2025 road program. So the last major piece that we have left is the surface on Wagon Trail. We are anticipating that will happen this week, provided schedules hold. And then we'll be down to punch list on everything else in the project. I also wanted to highlight that the emergency repair on Tower 1 started on Monday. So that's good news. It's taken us a while to get there. But if you remember, this is the leaking riser pipe on tower number 1. And we have 7 Brothers as the contractor working on that repair. They've done some other work for us recently on the Tower 3 rehab last year. It was only one of the brothers. It was we got the good brother. We were working with Grafe and More Construction on some grading or regrading in our new yard waste facility. We had to move some piles around and make some adjustments, but what we found was that we didn't have kind of the sheet flow that was needed, and we were getting some erosion where the grading kind of came to a point, and it was giving us some washouts that were pretty deep in a couple of locations and affected our storm basin. So we made some adjustments to the grading, and that whole site now, if you were to see it, is much more flat and kind of level grading than it was before.
Whose dime was that on?
That was split. So the reason that it was graded the way it was is because it was originally designed to have asphalt pavement on it, but the asphalt pavement was removed kind of late in the game. And then the design for the grading was never adjusted. So removing the asphalt from the plan was the village's call. And then the designer, Grave, took some responsibility for not adjusting the plans. So we ended up splitting that cost of the regrading 60-40, where Grave took 60% of it and we took 40% of it. And that came out of our contingency. But we are, almost all the way through the project at this point, with occupancy over a year ago now. I think it was in early September or late August last year that we took occupancy of the new building. And then the work at the old location is essentially complete. So we're just down to a couple small items where we'll be able to close out that contract pretty soon. Storm repairs. So we worked through the repair on Rockfield Road. That's back. The culvert is reinstalled, backfilled, and paved. We also made that repair on Donjas Bay Road by the pond and path. And aside from the Division Road Bridge, we're essentially done with all of our storm repairs. We don't know if there's going to be a presidential declaration on the public assistance side of things yet. That's to be determined. Our information was turned in to Washington County and the state and forwarded to the president. Ultimately, when a decision is made there, we'll be able to make a determination on how much we're eligible for in terms of reimbursement on some of these costs.
What were the costs roughly?
Well, the damage assessment for Germantown was approximately $400,000. That did not include mitigation costs. So an example of kind of how that's different, we identified the washout around the footings on that Division Road Bridge. That was not included in the damage assessment because the quote we got for or estimate we got, I should say, for repair was to, instead of putting soils back along the footing, to put riprap there. Well, FEMA said that is actually a mitigation effort. We want to know the damage. So they're assuming that the damage is what would be the cost of putting the soil back the way it was? And we're like, well, we wouldn't do that. So there's a lot of kind of that nuance of what's damage and what's mitigation. But ultimately what got reported to FEMA was approximately $400,000 in damage. You can be eligible to get reimbursement for mitigation efforts too. So that funding of the bridge repair is still a possibility. So first we need to wait for the presidential declaration and wait for a decision on that. If that is a thumbs down and we don't get it, then it's possible that we can still get reimbursement from the state to a more limited degree through a program that they have.
County have any money for us?
They're doing the same thing.
Thought I'd ask.
Other things to highlight here, I already talked about bid package 4 and how we're essentially complete there. I'll just go down to the department update stuff. We talked about Wagon Trail. DNR was in Germantown and conducted an audit on some of our stormwater facilities and plans. We're waiting for a report from them outlining any corrective action that we need to take, but I think overall it went fairly well. Excuse me. Our staff conducted some fall safety training on work zone safety, confined space, and trenching and excavation. We're underway with our fall equipment auctions. We've started a recruitment for one highway operator position for an upcoming retirement. We also have a storm recognition lunch planned for staff where the village administrator and myself will be on hand to talk through a couple different benefits that the village is providing them for some of their efforts from that August storm.
That's nice.
Yeah, I think that will be great. We were recognized by APWA back in the spring for Project of the Year for our new DPW facility. Because of that, we, along with Moore Construction and Grafe, will do the presentation on that project at the upcoming APWA in Wisconsin on the 31st.
What city is that in?
That is in Platteville. Yep, good times in Platteville. We received some equipment in the last month. We got the 2024 patrol truck chassis in the garage. We also got our 2025 parks pickup and the 2025 wastewater pickup. Good
Is
news.
that 2 chassis?
Just one.
Oh.
Just one, and this is the 2024, so it's going to sit in our garage for quite a while, and then go to get its upfit, its plow package installed. So we're hoping to have that available, for winter next year, basically.
That was ordered in 2024, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, like you're saying, it's like 2 years.
It's a 2-year process, basically.
Oh, we have another one coming, right? Is there another one on order?
The 2025 is also on order, yes. We don't have that one yet. And then I already talked about the presidential declaration, and that's all I have on my report, unless there's any other questions.
What's the response on the highway operator? Are you getting a lot of applications?
Yeah, there's been some decent applications.
Good.
Scott is on vacation this week. And I believe he started to review the applications last week, and we'll probably be setting up interviews for next week and the following.
How many years' experience are you looking for?
I don't know off the top of my head what the application says. But it's generally, a handful of years of experience and, ability to train on the job. The one thing that we really look for is a CDL. Otherwise we have to train them.
They were retired, how many years with the village?
Long time, 20 plus. Was a real good employee. Did a lot of work in the shop on our small stuff. So the pickups, the mowers and that kind of thing, be difficult to replace.
Yeah. Question. You had, I don't know, maybe I fell asleep. WISDOT on 145 and Division roundabout. You have 90% review. What does that mean?
Just that the plans are 90% complete, and the DOT had a review meeting with WISDOT, with locals like Germantown, to go over those plans.
Okay.
So
the
it's
exit?
progressing. That one will have a working day contract next summer, where they're looking at about a 60-day window to complete that project in June and July.
Those are always fun, working out those schedules.
So
So a
that's
little more
good.
info, Jan. So DOT has different stages of design where like the first step is 30%. When you get to 30% design, then they stop and we do a review at that stage. Then it's 60, or it used to be, then 90,
Right,
then
that makes sense.
and 100% submittal.
Do they have other municipalities like maybe Jackson or somebody that would utilize that a lot? The roundabout?
Well,
Is it only-
it's
is it-
entirely in Germantown.
Oh, okay.
This is right by the old
I know.
DPW.
I know exactly. what it is.
But, like Washington County was on the call, they invite,
Oh, okay.
kind of everybody in the area. We just had one also, I think it was a 60% review for Holy Hill Road west of the freeway,
Mhm.
where they're going to be repaving there and doing some improvements on the bridge. So that's when the kind of straddled municipalities. So the county was there, Richfield was there, Germantown was there, a whole bunch of people from the DOT were there. So yeah, so it just kind of depends where it's situated to, know who's going to be attending.
So they're not gonna pick up Mequon Road until 2028. They're skipping a couple of years? Is that right? Am I reading this right?
Mequon Road from the resurfacing from
Wasaki.
second from the bottom.
Wasaki to the expressway. Isn't that what they're gonna do?
Yes. Yeah, that's the second one from the bottom in 2028.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be in design in 2026. So you'll actually see a capital budget request for 2026 for design services on that road. Germantown agreed to pay for, I think 90% of the design on that.
Oh,
Okay, any other questions, comments? If not, this meeting is over at 7:35 PM. Thank you for attending here and for listening in. I'm sorry? Oh, yes.
is that the first Wednesday
Yeah,
of
November 5th.
November 5th?
Think
Let's
Does that
see.
work for everybody?
Thinking, yeah.
November 5th? It's good to me. Yeah, already got it on the calendar, so we'll assume the next meeting is Wednesday, November 5th, 5:30,
Sounds good.
this room. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Any calendars?
I do too. I have to go off my big calendar.
When will you take it up?
Why, thank you.
It could be Monday.
The resolution, I would imagine.
One of these things, but other parts of the pattern. And I electronically took an email that said, if I think it's an electronic, so that so did the package. So they do November 5th, I am. 50.